Today's master is Brent Phillips. Brent is a certified master of theta healing with more than 5,000 hours of private sessions. He has both a bachelor's and master's degrees from MIT with Phi Beta Kappa honors and with a perfect straight A record, which is extremely rare. He was the first person authorized by the founder of Theta Healing to write a book that is official Theta Healing material, and that book is called Where Science Meets Spirit, The Formula for Miracles. If you have ever wished that you could quickly and easily access your subconscious mind in order to simultaneously create better wealth, better health, and success, then you will love today's call, because Brent is about to explain to you exactly how to create greater levels of abundance and success in your life, how to use your own intuitive abilities to bring about spontaneous physical and emotional healing, and also how simple it is for you to access and use this amazing technique in your own life. Brent, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the call.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We appreciate it. And I'm really excited about this call, actually. I learned that you have an incredible story about how you came to find your passion as a healer with the theta healing technique. And just to get us started, would you please share with us a couple minutes about how you got into this amazing healing field?
That's a great question, because really I never expected I'd do anything like this. Because I grew up as, you might say, the prototypical computer nerd. I loved video games, I loved Dungeons & Dragons and fantasy and sci-fi. And so when I went to college, it was actually a pretty easy decision for me that I would study computers, because working with computers was the one thing I was good at, that I enjoyed doing, that I could also make a living. So I majored in computer science, went to MIT, very intense place, and it was at MIT that I discovered really one of the first great passions of my life, which was the Internet. Because back then, this was still years before the Internet was mainstream and in everybody's house. And so I was really just enthralled with the online world. And so I got heavily into the online culture, became an internetworking expert. I made that the focus of my studies. And so what happened was that several years later, I was still at MIT. I'd gotten my bachelor's degree and my master's degree, and I was in the PhD program working towards my doctorate when the Internet boom hit. And so, like a lot of my lab mates, I bailed out of graduate school and moved to California to start an Internet company. And so I figured, well, I'll go work really hard for a couple years, and we'll turn around and sell this company for millions of dollars. And, I'll spend the rest of my life in a hot tub with supermodels in some tropical island. So that was my old plan. Well, the universe had a different plan for me. And so what happened was that when we started these companies, everything went really well at first. It's kind of funny that to look back, that the very first website I ever created, like ever in my entire life, was for the launch of the Sony PlayStation in the summer of 1995. And so, we were doing some really high-profile work. After a year, I had 15 people working for me. We had at least a dozen different Fortune 500 clients, and things were really rolling. And, in fact, the web business was going so well that my partners and I started a second company to develop online video games. And so that was going great at first, too, but there was a dirty little secret, which was that I was the lead programmer as well as the only software manager and the only technical executive for two different companies at the same time. And so I was literally doing the work of 6 people. And I could handle it for a little while, but after about a year of this, it was literally 60, 80, 100-hour weeks nonstop. It was 7 days a week, morning, afternoon, evening, holidays, weekends, didn't matter. All I did was work. Because, again, I thought that I could do this for a couple of years and then make my pile of money and not worry about it. Well, my body had a different idea. And so after about a year of this severe overwork, I started to develop a really bad case of what doctors call repetitive stress injuries. And so it started with stiffness in my wrist, and then it became pain in my elbows and my shoulder, my neck, my back. And so little by little, I was just in more and more and more pain. And so, like a lot of people, I thought, well, I'll go to the doctor and they'll cure me, right? And so I went to doctors, and they gave me splints, and they gave me anti-inflammatories, and they put me in courses of physical therapy, and I did all this stuff, but the whole time I was still in pain. And it was getting so bad that I was having difficulty cutting my food because it hurt too much. I could only drive for about 10 or 15 minutes at a time, because if I drove for longer than that, it would cause me too much pain. it was very difficult to sleep at night. Anyone that's lived in chronic pain knows that usually the night is the worst because you don't have daytime activities to distract you. And it's just you and your pain being up all night. And so it was a real nightmare. Of course, I wasn't able to work as much as I had before because I had so many limitations, but I still tried. And so I actually spent the next couple of years chasing conventional treatment, trying to get better. I went to all these different doctors. I found all the best physical therapists. I was spending 3-hour sessions 3 days a week at the Curl and Job Clinic here in Los Angeles, which is the one where all of the elite athletes and Olympians go to. And so I knew I was getting the best possible care, but nothing worked for me. And so it was after a couple of years of that things got very difficult because after a certain point my partners lost patience with me. They couldn't have this person around who wasn't able to work even a full-time week anymore. I was limited to maybe 10 to 15 hours a week tops on the keyboard, and even that caused me an immense amount of pain just to do a little bit. And so in the spring of 1998, my partners pushed me out of my job. They turned around and sold the web company that I had literally built on my blood, sweat, and tears for millions of dollars, gave me nothing. And the video game company had been terminated out without cause by 3 different publishers, which basically means that we were just screwed 3 times over very badly. And so I was left in a position then where I wasn't able to work. I didn't have a job anymore. I had lost all the equity in the companies that I had founded because of this dispute with my partners. Multiple lawsuits resulted. There were a lot of bad feelings. I was living in chronic pain, and then the doctors declared me what they call permanent and stationary, which means that you're never going to recover, you're never going to work again, you're never going to be out of pain, and you're never going to have a normal life. And from that point forward, they only do what they call palliative care, which means to try to ease your pain. And so at the time, I had just turned 27, and this was absolutely devastating because just a couple years before, I was on top of the world. I was at the top of my class at one of the top technical universities. I was a world's leading expert on internetworking technologies. I had these 2 companies, both with multi-million-dollar potential, and my whole life was in front of me. I was the king of the world. Fast forward 2 years later, and I'm in chronic pain. I can't work. I have to move in with my parents, and doctors tell me that I'm going to be like this for the rest of my life. Oh, and on top of that, one of my partners was my lifelong best friend, who had also been secretly dating the woman I was in love with. So not only did I lose her, I also lost my lifelong best friend in this whole deal. And so I think understandably I got really depressed. I started drinking a lot. I started using drugs. I was barely able to function to get through the day. And it was just a total mess. And after being really kind of down in the dumps for a long time, that's when I was introduced to the world of alternative medicine. And so, like a lot of people who have chronic and difficult to treat conditions, when I first heard about alternative medicine, I got really excited because I was like, oh my God, this is going to work for me. It seemed to be exactly what I needed. And so I was very lucky in that I managed to find a new attorney who helped me to find a new doctor who managed to get the insurance company to approve some of these alternative treatments. And so for the next 5 years or so, I basically became a full-time patient. And so I had acupuncture, I had herbs, I had all the cupping and scraping done. I went to homeopaths, I went to osteopaths, I went to chiropractors. I had all sorts of different body work and deep tissue work done. I did yoga, I did Qigong, I took all sorts of crazy supplements, I did all these cleanses and fasts. I went on a strict raw food diet, 100% raw for a couple months. You name it, I was trying everything I could. I went to Reiki healers and pranic healers, and literally for 5 years I was a full-time patient. And so a typical day for me would be maybe I'd go see my orthopedist in the morning and then go see my acupuncturist, and then in the afternoon I'd go have a session of physical therapy. And so it was like 2 or 3 treatments a day for 5 years, trying to get better. And it was, at first I was really excited and had a lot of hope, right? I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be it. This is going to be the treatment that's going to help me get better so I can get out of pain and go back to having my normal life. Well, one time after another, over and over and over again, I went to all these amazing practitioners with these incredible techniques and supplements and machines and things. But every time they would say, oh, Brent, no problem. We expect that we'll have you, moving again and out of pain and back at work after, 5 or 10 or 20 sessions or whatever the number was. And they'd say, oh, don't worry about it. 99% of our patients or clients are, completely healed and out of pain within, 6 or 8 weeks or whatever the number was. Well, I was the one person who over and over and over, nothing worked for me. And so I left dozens of highly skilled practitioners in the dust, and no one could help me. And I knew that these people had good stuff because they were able to work miracles with other people's lives. And in fact, a lot of them worked some miracles in me, just not in my core problems. Nothing could seem to touch the stiffness and the pain and the movement restrictions I had. And so after 5 years of this, I agreed to have an experimental surgery because I was seeing one of the top elbow orthopedists, and he had this experimental surgery that he thought would really help me. And so I agreed to have the surgery, and as bad as things had been before the surgery, it was actually much worse after. Because after I had this surgery, which was in February of 2003, my right arm was completely frozen at the elbow. And so after the surgery, I couldn't move my arm at all. And so that was devastating. And at the time, it was really frightening because I had run out of my savings. You know, I was borrowing money and just, you know, trying to scrimp together enough to, you know, to buy food and pay gas and get around. And all of a sudden now I can't work at all, not only because of my pain, because I can't move my arm. And so it was actually like that for about 4 months. And so I tried all sorts of different stuff to try to get my arm to move. I wore dyno splints at night, and I had manipulations done and all this stuff. And I actually had a second operation, which helped a little bit. After the second operation, it wasn't as bad as it was at first, but I still couldn't move my arm normally. And so it was then that I heard about this thing called theta healing. And so it was kind of funny how it happened, because my Aunt Lauren, who I've always been very close with, she has an old friend of hers, Terry O'Connell, who I had kind of known casually for a long time. I'd met her at family events and over at her house and things. And Terry was a very successful financial professional. She's Wharton School MBA, worked with big government contracts, worked with oil companies, did a lot of really exciting and incredible stuff. And Terry had had her own major health crisis. And after Terry had this health crisis, she found this thing called theta healing from this woman in Idaho, Vienna Steibel. And so Terry went and learned theta healing and did sessions with Vienna, and she actually, it saved her life. And so because it worked for her, Terry was so impressed by this thing called theta healing that she gave up her really successful career, you know, very secure six-figure job in finance in order to be a full-time healer. And so I thought she was nuts, right? I'm like, oh my God, you know, you must be crazy. Maybe you joined a cult or something. But I wanted to convince myself that I had tried everything, and I wanted to go have a session, if for no other reason than to just shut up my aunt so she'd stop bugging me about it. So I went and I had a session with Terry. And so it was fascinating in that first we talked about muscle testing, which we'll discuss a little bit later in the interview. And then we did some muscle testing, and we talked about my parents, and we talked about God, and we talked about my relationships with women and what had happened with my best friend and all these different things. And it was all very interesting, but the whole time part of me is going, well, you know, this is kind of cool, but what does it have to do with my elbow, right? And so when we got to the end of the session, she did this healing process on me where she kind of sat back and her eyes rolled back into her head, and she got really silent for a couple minutes. When she was doing that, I actually felt something popped and shifted inside my elbow. And when that happened, I was like, whoa. And then she opened her eyes and said, okay, Brent, try your arm. And I did, and I could move my arm again. There was no hitch, no catch. It was, you know, the frozen elbow had been instantly and completely healed. And so that was the miracle that hooked me on this. And I remember after this happened, I looked at Terry and I said, Terry, I don't know what you just did, but I got to learn this. And so I did, and that's what I've devoted my life to. And so for the next, the next 8 years now, I've been studying and practicing theta healing. And I've really made it my mission to take this out to the world, because this is such an incredibly valuable tool. It will completely change your life once you are exposed to it, if you choose to use it. And so it's very difficult to explain to someone who doesn't have access to this yet how powerful it is. But let me give you a couple metaphors, which are, most of us, before we had email and the web and the internet, we somehow got by, right? Somehow life moved on. Same thing with your cell phone. Wasn't that long ago that very few people had cell phones, right? Same thing like if you have a DVR or a TiVo. These are all things that before you have them, you don't think you need them. But after you've had it in your life, you'd never want to go without it. To me, theta healing is more important than any of those things. I would never want to have to go back to living my life without having this tool in my back pocket. And, you know, maybe later in the interview we'll talk about some example cases of, you know, real-life case studies of people I've worked with and the things that have happened in their lives as a result. So there's a long answer about how I got into this.
Well, I find it interesting because hearing it for the first time, it seems like theta healing might seem a little bit too good to be true, and you might have thought that had you not had such a profound experience yourself.
Sure.
And so I've heard you describe it as an attainable miracle for our lives. And that is
Absolutely.
incredibly exciting, especially knowing that any one of us can implement it. We don't have to have supernatural healing powers in order to utilize this tool. So I would love to know more about it. And how is it different from other healing methodologies that are out there?
That's a good question. So really, the core essence of what theta healing is that it is a technique that allows us to access a conscious theta brainwave. And so that's why it's called theta healing. And so that's so important because it is the theta brainwave that is the mechanism that we unlock the world on the other side of the veil, so to speak, or the higher dimensional reality. And so even for people who have never heard of theta healing, if you study the literature, there's been all sorts of fascinating research studies over the years on all these different psychic and paranormal phenomena, such as remote viewing, talking to the dead, instant healing, instant manifestation, reading the future, all that cool stuff, right? Every one of those studies has found that it is the theta brain state that allows it to occur. And so what we're doing is we're going into the theta brain state and accessing what you might call the subconscious mind. And so I'm sure a lot of the listeners are familiar with the law of attraction. Maybe you guys have watched The Secret or been to a positive thinking seminar or done other similar energy healing techniques. And so the basis of the law of attraction is that what you think about and focus on, you will attract and create in your life. Now, that's basically true. But most of us find that when we use these techniques we learn, when we make our vision board, when we say our affirmations and mantras, when we do positive thinking and put power words on our walls and all that stuff, because I've done all that stuff too, what we find is most of the time it doesn't work. Now, admittedly, there are the lucky few who watch their life shift, right? Someone will say, oh my God, I watched this video or I read this book, and in the next 3 days, I made $25 million, I healed from cancer and diabetes, and I met my soulmate. And you're like, wow, how did that happen, right? Because most of these positive thinking programs and such, they have people who give these great testimonials and all that. Well, I think those are mostly true. These things really happen, but they're very rare. The reason is that those people who see those incredible things happen, they didn't have any subconscious blocks in the way. And so their conscious mind was ready, willing, and able to change their reality for them because the subconscious mind wasn't in the way. But that's very rare, probably less than 1%. And so what happens with most of us? Well, most of us, we go to the positive thinking seminars and we dance on the stage and high-five people and do all that, kind of stuff they do. And we make our vision board and we think positively, and then nothing changes. Or little stuff shifts, but the big stuff doesn't. And we say, well, it doesn't work. This is what happened to me. When I was telling you guys earlier about that period of my life in 1998, when all of a sudden I was pushed out of my job, I didn't have a salary, I had to live with my parents, I had to have my mom cut my food, I was brokenhearted, I'd lost my best friend, I was told I'd be in pain and unable to work for the rest of my life. That was pretty brutal. One of the things I did to get through it was I got into positive thinking, what we now call the law of attraction. And I did all that stuff and it didn't work. Well, what I found was that that's because our subconscious mind really rules our reality. Over 90% of your power and how you create your health, your wealth, your relationships, and everything in your life is controlled by the subconscious mind. And so if you have blocks in your subconscious, it's going to be very difficult or impossible to make some of these changes. And so to me it was fascinating that before I started theta healing, I mentioned that I had been through many years of full-time treatments and nothing worked for me. I was seeing the very best acupuncturist. I was seeing the Chinese doctor who treated the Lakers. And I was seeing the osteopath here in Santa Monica who's one of the world-renowned teachers of this technique. So I knew I was working with great people, but nothing worked for me. Nothing at all. I just got worse and worse. It was fascinating to me that after I started doing theta healing and working with my subconscious and clearing those subconscious blocks, I started to get results. And so I like to be very clear that not all of my problems and pain disappeared in that first session. Far from it. The movement restriction, the chronic pain, the tightness, none of that changed at all. The only thing that really changed in a big way was all of a sudden my frozen elbow was completely healed, and it was never a problem again. But all those other problems, those did not heal instantly. It's taken me years of work to get all the way through it. But what happened was that after I started clearing the subconscious with theta, everything else I was doing started to give me results. I was seeing the same physical therapist and the same Chinese doctor and the same orthopedist and the same osteopath and the same chiropractor, and my whole team was the same before and after theta. But once I started working my subconscious, I got results. And so that's how it works. Almost everything in your life is created by you unconsciously, by the subconscious mind. And if you want to see some shifts in your life, you have to get into that subconscious. And theta healing, for me, is the most powerful thing out there. And of everything I've tried, I found that it gives the most powerful results, and it's the fastest and easiest. One thing that distinguishes it from many other healing techniques is that any time you're channeling energy through your hands, you're using an alpha brainwave. And so Reiki healing and pranic healing, and there's many other techniques out there where you use your hands to do healing. Those can be effective, but you're only getting to an alpha wave, which can be very good for temporary pain relief, but it's difficult to get deep down into the tissue of your body to heal a broken bone, to heal a chronic disease, to clear away asthma and allergies, to heal cancer and AIDS and this, what we call the big scary stuff. You need the theta wave for that. And if you can clear your subconscious and access that conscious theta brainwave, you can literally create miracles in your life. And that's why I call this the formula for miracles, because it really is.
It sounds really powerful. Most of us are aware, and we've heard in the past, that our emotions and feelings and thoughts have a direct bearing on our physical bodies, our health. That toxic emotions can contribute to disease. How does theta healing empower us to remove those negative feelings and emotions and replace them with more positive, beneficial ones?
Well, we need to understand how we work as humans. And so most of us think that our thoughts and our emotions just come from the void. We're not sure where they come from, right? They just seem to be there. Mm-hmm. They actually come from somewhere. All of your thoughts and emotions actually come out of your subconscious mind. And so, for example, if someone cuts you off on the freeway and you get angry, what's happening is you've activated all these subconscious programs that tell you that you've been disrespected, that you've been put in danger, that you've been made late, right? All those things. All of those create this reaction we call anger. And so if you want to get rid of that, if you suffer from road rage, you need to get into your subconscious and find those what we call belief systems or subconscious programs that are creating that aspect of your reality. And so let me give you a quick little metaphor that I think will be really helpful for everyone listening. The way that your body works and the universe works is not what you were taught. It's different. And so I'm going to give you guys a metaphor that I think will really help clear this up. The metaphor is a computer. Big surprise, you're getting a computer metaphor from the software engineer, right? And so if you look at your computer, you know that when you run programs, they appear on the screen. And so you may have all these different programs running. But you also know that those programs aren't created by the screen. Those programs are actually encoded as software on the hard drive. And so when you run the programs, it's actually the code on the hard drive that goes into the computer's memory that causes the program to run. And so let's say, for example, that you're using your computer. Let's say that you're using a word processor, and you're having a problem with it. And so the way most of us are trained to live our lives and heal our bodies and make money is as if when you had a bug in your computer software, it would be as if you took out some black markers and whiteout and started drawing on your monitor to try to fix the problem. Well, that's kind of ridiculous, right? There's probably a great blonde joke in there somewhere. We all know that drawing on your monitor is not going to fix your software. Now, at best, it might create a temporary illusion of having fixed the software, but it's not actually fixed. We all know that if you actually want to fix that software, you need to fix the codes on the hard drive, right? You either need to download some new software or get an update or a patch or debug it, or call your computer person who will do that for you. But in any case, you know that it's the code on the hard drive that's creating the problem. And you need to get into that code and fix it if you want to have a permanent solution. Well, guess what? Everything in your life is exactly the same way. We have inside of us these millions, billions, possibly trillions of subconscious programs and belief systems that literally run our reality. And so we are very much like that computer. Your subconscious mind is what I call the software of your soul. And so it is very much like software that literally creates your reality. And so inside of us, we have subconscious programs for our career, for our level of wealth, for our health, for our friendships, for our relationships with our family, for our living space, everything. And so you're full, all of us are full of these subconscious programs, this software that creates your reality. And so in the same way that if you're having a problem with the program on your computer, you know that drawing on the monitor won't help. You need to fix the code on the hard drive. The exact same thing applies to everything in your life. If there's something wrong in your life, if you're struggling with money, if you're brokenhearted, if you're alone, if you're stuck in a bad marriage, if you're in chronic pain, if you have an incurable disease, whatever the case may be, drawing on the monitor is not going to help. What you need to do is get to the source of it. There's some programs or beliefs in your subconscious mind, in that software of your soul that's creating that experience. And if you can get in there and identify it and then debug that bad code, your life will transform. That's how the formula for miracles works, and that's what we do with theta healing. And so if someone comes to me and let's say they're having trouble with money, what I would want to do is find the most powerful subconscious blocks they have to money. And so we're literally recoding your money reality from the inside out using this technique. And one thing that needs to be said is that it's very easy to oversimplify this and think of it as a magic wand that's going to solve every problem in your life. It's not that. It's not going to solve everything instantly every time. However, if you use it regularly, you will see a large number of miraculous instant healings, of profound life transformations. You'll be amazed at what happens. Because this is not, again, it's not a magic wand that's going to fix everything instantly. But it's an incredibly powerful tool that will give you so much more ability to control what happens in your life. And again, if you learn to use this, and you do use it, you will see miracles happen. You'll see many miracles happen. I usually see at least 2 or 3 miracles happen every week. It's just like clockwork. Instant healing, profound transformation. Not everything all at once. Some things take time, but a lot of things just shift very quickly. And the ones that don't, it just means that you have a longer process in front of you. You've got more blocks to clear out. And so the way that I like to think about this is that theta healing and the formula for miracles technology I've developed is like a 5-dimensional toolkit. It's a toolkit for 5-dimensional living. Many of us are aware that there's a huge shift going on in the world right now. We talk about the Great Change, we talk about 2012 and the New Age and all this cool stuff. Well, what's happening is our old tools, the old energy, which was stuck in 4 dimensions, is not working very well anymore. This is true both of our individual lives and as society as a whole. And so we're having trouble with money. There's a great recession out there, right? A lot of us are having major health problems, things that are untreatable or incurable by even the best modern medicine. We're having political strife. There's competition over oil and water. We're poisoning the environment. There's global warming. There's all these problems going on. And so what we know is that we cannot keep doing things the way we have. It is unsustainable. Again, both for our individual lives and as a collective. And so the only way we're going to find a solution is going to be in a higher dimensional power. Because using the tools we have in 4 dimension is not going to work. We need something like theta healing. And so let me give you guys one more metaphor that I think will help bring this all together. What does it really mean to access the 5th dimension? That seems a little esoteric. Let's talk about what this would look like in your day-to-day life. And so let's imagine that we all lived in flatland. And so imagine for a second that everything in the world existed in 2 dimensions. Well, if you lived in flatland, you would have no concept of 3 dimensions. And let's say that you came up to a wall in flatland, and it seems to go for miles in each direction. Well, as long as you're stuck in 2 dimensions, the only way around that wall is to walk for many miles around it, right? But if you could somehow access the 3rd dimension, if you could move up out of flatland, you could just jump right over that wall and keep going. And so that's what it means to access a higher dimensional power. Something that seems very difficult or impossible can just happen magically. That's what instant healing is. When we do a healing with theta, we're accessing this higher dimensional power that can cause results in our life that we call miraculous or magical. They're actually not. They're just happening in a higher dimensional space that we're not aware of. theta healing is, to the best of my knowledge and experience, I think the most powerful thing going to give us that capability. Because in order to survive and prosper in the world that's coming, we're going to need to know how to work with our subconscious mind. We're going to need to know how to manifest money and friends and support. We're going to need to know how to instantly heal our bodies with our minds, because the doctors may not be there. And if they are, they may not have a cure for whatever is out there. And so I see myself as having a great responsibility to take this message out to the world. And that's why I'm on this show today and why I do so much to try to promote this work, because I think the world needs this. We need to access a 5-dimensional space. We need this both for our individual lives and for as a collective of humanity on the planet. And so anybody that is excited to learn this and join me, I've put it out there as my stated goal to the universe that by the end of 2012, I want to teach 1,000 people theta healing. And I then want to continue to support and work with you so you can go forward and teach 1,000 people theta healing. And I'm actually on target for this so far. And with the ultimate goal being that that's going to create perhaps 1 million new practitioners in the world. And so in the same way that we can use this technique one-on-one to heal our bodies, to improve our finances, to heal our relationships, we can also use the technique as a collective with many healers working together to take on the big picture issues. We can stop wars. We can end global warming. We can clean up the environment. We can fix the economic corruption and the political instability. I believe we really can do this, but it's going to take a lot of us working together to do so.
I think you're definitely onto something, Brent. And I love the fact that we can benefit from this on an individual level. But yes, I love the idea of creating an army of people who have these types of skills and awareness and knowledge. It's brilliant. And we can learn these things in your...
I was going to say the first step is to use it to fix your life. Mm-hmm. We all need to get our lives in order first, and then once we've done that, then we're ready to work together to take on the big picture. And you're right. This is all things I teach in the basic theta healing class.
Perfect.
And so it's just one 3-day seminar. You'll learn the basics of what I call this 5-dimensional toolkit: how to access your intuition, how to read the body, how to perform instant healings, how to manifest, how to reprogram the subconscious, plus lots of other traditional psychic work. We'll show you how to do soul retrievals and cut psychic cords and remove curses and deal with possessions and comas and working with children and animals. And it's all, it's pretty amazing that I can actually teach you this in 3 days. But you'll learn all that stuff. Clearing radiation, the list of applications is almost endless, which is why I say that once you've learned this, you would never want to go back to living your life without it. That would just seem silly and pointless. Why would you do that? I don't know. Yeah. It would be like trying to be an executive today without having a cell phone or a BlackBerry. It's like, why would you do that? You could try, but you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm out there doing this. And so one thing that a lot of people will ask is, well, how do I get this to apply to my life, right? This sounds great, but, what's it going to take? Is it going to cost me a lot of money? Well, not really. And so I have developed a range of different services and products, with the goal being that I want to meet you where you're at. And so I've written a couple books. The first one is called Where Science Meets Spirit, The Formula for Miracles, which goes into a good amount of detail to explain exactly how this works. And it explains not only how healing works and manifesting works, but actually connects you directly to the underlying science. Because it's a little pet peeve of mine that there's all these people in this industry that run around saying, we're using quantum physics and it's all scientific. That rubs me the wrong way because most of those people have no idea what they're talking about. They wouldn't know what science was if it bit them in the butt. And so I don't just wave my hands and tell you it's scientific. I show you with very simple, easy-to-use language, step-by-step how it works, starting with the equations of physics, things like the uncertainty principle and Newton's laws, and show you exactly how they interact in a very real scientific way to create this reality where we can have healings and all this. And it's pretty amazing. So really different ways people can use it. When I first was introduced to this work, the traditional way that you do theta healing is one-on-one in private sessions. And so that's how I learned to do this, and I still do private sessions, but I wanted to do better than that because I knew that there's only so many lives I can touch one-on-one, right? there's only so many sessions I can do in a day or in a week or in a year. And so I'm very limited in how many lives I can change in that way. And so after doing private sessions for a while, I actually learned how to do this process on a whole group of people. First in person, and then I learned how to do it remotely through a teleseminar or a webinar. And so for those of you guys who want to get an exposure to this, part of the free gift you'll get just for registering for the call, no payment at all needed, is you're going to get a copy of my ebook, The Secret Behind the Secret. Inside that, you'll notice that there are special codes for the upcoming live teleconference that I'm going to do. And so you guys will also get access to that. So you not only get to read a little bit about it, but you get to come to one of the live events and experience it for yourself. So that's just a giveaway. That's a free one for you guys if you want to dip your toe in the water and see how it feels. Beyond that, the materials I've developed use what's called the Formula for Miracles technology. And so remember, first I used this doing it one-on-one in privates. That's kind of the traditional way of doing theta healing. The second way I learned to do it was through in groups and then in teleseminars. And then the third way I learned to do theta healing was, and this took me years to figure out, I actually found a way to do it in a product. And so it uses a combination of binaural beats encodings and specially charged healing energy, so that I've developed what I call the Formula for Miracles technology, where you can actually listen to audio programs and they will reprogram your subconscious mind for you as you listen to them, which I think is just profoundly powerful, and I'm not aware of anyone out there doing anything like this. And so I have several Formula for Miracles products available now. The centerpiece, which is the centerpiece of the package, is called Unleash Your Inner Millionaire. And in Unleash Your Inner Millionaire, it's about an 8-hour program where it's a combination of left brain and right brain. About half of it is an entirely new model on how to think about manifesting in your life. And really, I think it is the most advanced and most profound explanation of this process that's out there. And so I challenge you guys, even if you think you know a lot about it, I challenge you to listen to it. I think it will blow you away. The second half is all binaural beats encoded Formula for Miracles clearing. And so it will clear out the 327 most common blocks to prosperity out of your subconscious mind as you listen to it. And so I'm really proud of that, because this Formula for Miracles technology allows me to reach a much larger audience. And so I have other programs. I have the allergy clearing, which automatically heals allergies, which I love because I've healed so many hundreds of allergies. I just got bored with it. And I didn't want to do it anymore because it got boring. So I created this program that automatically heals most allergies in one listen. It takes about 10, 15 minutes. I also have the trauma clearing meditation, which is profoundly powerful, though it may not seem obvious at first, because this will guide you through a process of clearing any traumatic experience out of your subconscious mind. Doesn't matter if you were a child, if it was another lifetime, if it's a genetic memory, doesn't matter. This will clear it right out. And so I'm actively developing more. Soon to be released is my next program called In Love for a Lifetime, which is a similar format to Unleash Your Inner Millionaire, but it's all about love and relationships. And so it's about 4 hours of left brain on soulmates and relationships and love and marriage and sex and the truth about it, the things you guys need to know, because our society mostly lies to us about that stuff. And the other half is an encoded Formula for Miracles block clearing to clear 300 some of the most common blocks to love, intimacy, and sex. And so for you guys who want to get started, the package offers all this stuff. It's basically a combination of everything I've ever created, all wrapped together at a huge discount. So I hope you guys appreciate that. And just so you know, I've gotten feedback that people say, "Wow, Brent, you put way too much into this package." Yeah, and people tell me that. They're like, "No, this is too much." I say, "No, I want people to get everything they need to change their lives. And it's okay if I have nothing else to sell them." I'm okay with that, because I'm out to give you guys the tools to change your life. And if I give you guys $1,000 worth of value for $97, and you actually use this, and you see the amazing changes you're going to see, I guarantee you that all your friends are going to want some too, and they're going to, become clients and customers.
We definitely appreciate that. I wanted to be able to let the listeners who are at their computers actually go to a special link that we have created just for this amazing package that you've put together, because it is incredibly generous. And talk about a great way to taste so many different facets of this healing method. It's just, you've given us so much. To access that link, you can simply go now to www.awakeningwiththemasters.com/formula. That's formula, Formula. And gosh, I saw something in there for spiritual weight loss and things for everything that we can imagine that can better our lives. But I love the inner millionaire ones. Many people today are really struggling with the current economic situation, so that one is really going to benefit a lot of people. Thank you for that. Brent, do you have time, or would you mind taking us, if you have some sort of a process or some sort of exercise?
I can give you guys just a tiny taste right now. I would strongly encourage all of you guys to come to the upcoming live event. I'll give a much longer introduction and explain it in more detail, and you'll get a full hour plus of clearing there. But for right now, I'll give you a little taste. And so typically the way theta healing works is that first you go through a process of identifying a subconscious block. And then we use what's called muscle testing or applied kinesiology to verify it. And so we don't have time to get a lot into muscle testing right here, but in a nutshell, what it does is muscle testing is the way you ask questions of your subconscious mind. Because your subconscious mind is your body. It is your body's intelligence. It's your cellular memory. Those are all exactly the same thing. And so muscle testing is a physical process where you can ask your body, your subconscious mind, yes and no questions. And so once you've verified the block is there with the muscle testing, we then use different processes in theta healing to clear it out. And so, for example, if I were working with you and we were doing a one-on-one, and we found that you had the subconscious block that you have to be poor to be close to God, we would then muscle test that, and if it holds, that means it's actually there. And then I would use the theta process to shift it out. And then we would retest you afterwards and recheck that you have to be poor to be close to God. Most of the time it will shift, and so that means that the block is cleared. And so we'll go through a little example of that right now. We'll do maybe 2 or 3 about money and then 1 or 2 about health, so you guys can have an experience of this. And so normally in my live events, in the Formula for Miracles programs, or in my private sessions, I would spend a little bit of time teaching you guys how to do muscle testing first. But that takes about 5 or 10 minutes, and so I don't want to take that time right now. And so those of you guys who already know muscle testing, which I'm sure a lot of the listeners do, if you already know how to muscle test, I would encourage you to use it as we do this process. If you don't worry about it. We'll just do the healing right now without the muscle testing, but I would strongly encourage you guys to follow up and either come to one of my live events or listen to one of the free downloads available on our website, or even better, one of the pieces in the package is the Secrets of Muscle Testing video, which will teach you everything you ever need to know about it. So lots more to be said on muscle testing. For right now, if you know how to do it, go ahead and do it. If you don't, just skip it and then learn later, and you'll understand better why we're doing this. So let's do a little example of theta healing. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a second to connect into everybody's energy. And so this process only works through permission. And so if you would like me to do a little demonstration on you right now, go ahead and say yes out loud. And I know I can't hear you, but it doesn't matter. I need permission to make any change. So I'll give you guys a second to do that.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So what we'll do is, first we'll check the one that we just did. So if you guys know how to muscle test, go ahead and muscle test, I have to be poor to be close to God. That's a very common belief that's usually carried in genetically. Because many of us in the modern world, we don't believe we have to be poor to be close to God. But guess what? I guarantee you had ancestors who did believe that very strongly. So many of us still carry that today. And so if you guys have tested it and it's there, I'm going to go right now, with your permission, and take a second to go clear that out of your subconscious. All right, now it's gone. It's really that easy and that fast. And so for those of you guys who know how to muscle test, go and test it again. Test, I have to be poor to be close to God. What you'll find is that for probably 90% of you guys who had it before, now it's clear. And so it's really that easy and that fast and that simple. You identify a bad or a negative belief system, a block in your subconscious. You use muscle testing to verify it's there. You clear it with theta, and then you repeat the muscle test to verify it's gone. And so those of you guys who can't do muscle testing, you may not have noticed anything happening, which is why I encourage you to go learn it and follow up, because you'll actually feel that your body is physically moving differently as a result of the process, which will blow you away if you've never done anything like this before. So we'll do a couple more here. The next belief I want you guys to test, if you know muscle testing, is I have a vow of poverty. So go ahead and test that if you know how to muscle test. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go clear that for all you guys. So if you want me to clear it, go ahead and give me your permission, and I'll go do that. Okay, all done. I know it just sounds like I went silent for a second, but I've learned to do this really, really fast. And I can change belief systems on hundreds of people in the blink of an eye. And I can teach you guys how to do that too. It's not that hard. And so if you guys know muscle testing, go ahead and check again. Test, I have a vow of poverty. And what you'll find is that for almost everyone that had it, it will now be clear. Those are really powerful blocks in your subconscious. One block like this can wreck your life. One block like this can keep you poor, keep you in pain, keep you alone. Now, not every one belief is going to change your life, but some of them will. And these are big ones. So let's do another one on health. So here we're going to do what we call a theta healing download. And so if you guys know muscle testing, go ahead and muscle test. I know what it feels like to be completely healthy. And so if you got a yes, we're going to go and clear. That's good. And so that means you have that energy, that code in you already. If you got a no or a backwards, I'm going to go and do what we call a download with theta to teach you on the cellular subconscious level what it feels like to be completely healthy. Okay? And those of you guys who know how to muscle test, go ahead and test that again. Check, I know what it feels like to be completely healthy. And I expect that most or all of you guys will have seen it shift. And so that's a little example of what we do with theta healing. We identify the negative beliefs or subconscious blocks. We use the muscle testing to verify if they're there. Then we clear them, and then we repeat the muscle test to make sure it's gone. And so this is more or less how we work in a private session. In the live events, we do pretty much the same thing. I'll have you guys submit the blocks to me, and then I clear through everything every month that everyone submits. And in the Formula for Miracles products like Unleash Your Inner Millionaire, it will also guide you through this process. And the healing energy is coded in and charged, so you don't have to do anything. It all happens automatically. So I hope you guys got some benefit from that. The other thing I want to mention is that I really see that healing and spirituality is not just something you do every now and then, but really works best if you make it a regular part of your life. And so one of the pieces of the package you guys can get that I want to highlight is the 30-day $1 trial to my Formula for Miracles VIP Club. And the VIP Club is basically my inner circle of people who are really serious about using spirituality to transform their life. And so in the VIP Club, every month I do multiple live events that all come with the admission. I usually do a Wealth Club event that focuses on money blocks. We do health club events that focus on physical and emotional health issues. We do love clubs where we focus on clearing blocks to love and intimacy. We do DNA activations, special healings. You get discounts on private sessions, and every month we do a special event. Examples of special events. We had 8 Days of Prosperity. We had the 7 Steps to Happiness. We had Building a Holistic Business. We had Enlightened Relationships. We had 12 Layers of the DNA. We do one every month. And for every special event, I write articles and prepare material and videos for you guys to give you kind of the latest on what's up in the world, what you guys need to know, and cut through all the hype and crap and get right to the core of it. In the 12 layers of the DNA, we talk about what exactly are the 12 layers? Why do they matter? Are you already activated? What do these layers do? Many people don't answer these questions. We just talk about, the 12 layers of the DNA and, hold hands and hug and sing kumbaya. Well, that's not going to change your life. But this process will. And so I offer that on an ongoing basis for anybody that wants to be part of it. It's part of the package if you want to check it out. I think that over the long run, that will do an immense amount to transform your life. Because again, your whole life is created out of your subconscious. If you know how to get in there and clear those blocks, you will have the world at your feet. If you don't, you're going to keep using your old four-dimensional tools to try to solve a five-dimensional problem, and it's not going to work. But don't take my word for it. Go live your life that way and see what happens.
I think a lot of us are right now exactly experiencing trying to deal with today's problems with what we know from the past. And so I appreciate your forward thinking and your ability to take us into realms that some people who are listening may not yet have tapped into, but it is extremely exciting, and it's a wonderful way to prepare for changes that are already happening right now and shifts that we may have heard of coming in the very near future, well, right now, as we plug ahead. So thank you so much for taking the time. And just one last time for those listening who would like to take a look and see what all is in this huge package that Brent's put together. Again, that link is www.awakeningwiththemasters.com/formula. And again, Brent, just thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, what you've been through, for piquing our curiosity about this incredible method of improving our lives. I mean, I know I'm fascinated. It's intriguing to me, very intriguing, and I know that the listeners, I'm sure, got a lot out of this today as well. Do you happen to have any final thoughts that you would like to leave everyone with today?
I think the final thought I would give to everyone is to realize that your whole life is created out of your unconscious mind. And if you don't do anything about it, you're basically surrendering most of your power. You're giving up. And through the ages, we've done this because we didn't know there was another option. But now we do. Now you guys know that there's a way you can harness this power and use it for yourself. And it'll start with your life. We'll get you healthy. We'll get you making money. We'll find love for you. And then once we've kind of gotten your life on firm footing, I would love to work with you to take it to the next level. To take it out there to your friends and your family, to your community, to get it out there to the world with the ultimate goal of creating an army of healers, that we can go and we can solve all the world's problems that are basically impossible to solve in four dimensions. We can bring this five-dimensional experience to your day-to-day life and transform your reality. But you have to ask for it. And so I'm really hopeful that a lot of you guys will want to join me in this journey. We're going to change ourselves and change the world, and our lives are going to be so much better in the future. I'm not sure we're even going to remember all these problems we're having today.
Well, it sounds like a very exciting option to what a lot of us have heard about what could be coming in with the 2012 phenomenon, and it's wonderful to hear an empowered and a hopeful and a perspective that gives us power and provides us with tools that we very likely will need right now and in the future. So thank you so much for allowing us to help work on ourselves and then ultimately to create a better world for all of us to live in. So thank you. And thank you all to the listeners listening tonight, and wish you all a really good night.